effect of current, that is electroplating. So electroplating, the word itself explains what is the meaning of electroplating. Electro from electricity and plating from making a plate. So in electroplating, we are using the chemical effect of current. That is, current can be used to plate something with the help of electricity. So here there is an exam explanation given. A brand new bicycle has a shiny handle and wheel rims. So if you see any appliance which you are using at home, if you see a bicycle, then it has got shiny rings. In your book this portion is given. You have seen that this area of the car, and this is the motorbike, it has got shiny rims. These are accidentally scratched. So what is it mean? That if you see the wheel rims, the part which looks like a steel part, it looks like steel but it is actually not steel. So if I show you, like, this is a scale which is also made up of steel, and if these are accidentally scratched, the shiny coating comes out, and we will not see a shine. You might have seen women using ornaments which look like gold but they are not actually gold. So what are they? In both these cases, a metal has a coating of another metal. So one metal is coated with another metal, and that metal makes it look better. Like if you have an iron metal and you cover it with another metal which is not iron, which looks like steel, and therefore it shines. So how it is done, that is explained in this activity. So in this activity you have to follow this diagram, and according to this diagram you have to keep this diagram in mind. In this diagram there are three parts which are actually, if I explain it, it is like this. There is a container. So whenever we use chemical effect of current, we use a container and a liquid. So this container is glass and it is filled with a liquid. Now what is the liquid? It is copper sulfate solution, and copper sulfate solution which is having some acid in it. Then there are two rods which are put inside, and both the rods are copper rods. One rod is connected to positive, another is connected to negative terminal, and these are connected through wires to a battery. So in the previous class I had explained that this symbol which I am making, one long line and short line, so this is the symbol of battery, and this is connected with wire to the second rod, and both are copper. So three things are there: one positive rod, one negative rod, and copper sulfate solution, which is the liquid filled inside. Now this rod, which is copper, which is plus, and this is minus. So the positive copper is called anode, very important, and the negative one is called the cathode. This will explain a cell also. So the positive copper rod is called the anode and the negative copper rod is called the cathode, and we have dipped both of them in copper sulfate solution and connected it with electric current. We will allow the electric current to pass through it for around 15 to 20 minutes, and then remove the electrodes. So these are the anode and cathode are called the electrodes. So this is a diagram of a cell, which is called the electrochemical cell. Now pass the current and then remove the electricity. This electricity is produced from the battery. After some time, you will see that the copper sulfate solution, which was blue in color in the beginning, it will show that this liquid which is filled inside will show a change in color. So what is the change in color? When the electric current is passed for some time, the copper sulfate solution which is filled inside, it breaks up into copper. It breaks up into copper and sulfate, and the sulfate is, this is the metal and this is a sulfate ion which readily forms sulfur dioxide. So it breaks up into these two things, copper and sulfate, the copper sulfate solution. Now what happens to this copper? The copper which is developed in this liquid, this copper moves to the electrode, because we know one thing you should know, that copper is a metal. You did this earlier, and it has got a positive charge, and sulfate has got a negative charge. So what happens from this solution? Two things are formed, copper and sulfate. So since copper is positively charged and sulfate is negatively charged, copper starts to move towards the part where there is opposite charge. So this copper will move towards the place where there is minus charge. Now where is the minus charge? Here this copper rod is connected to positive terminal of the battery. This is connected to the negative terminal of the battery, and this liquid which is copper sulfate has broken into two things, copper and sulfate. Copper, which is positive part, will go to a place where there is negative charge. So from this Cu, which is plus, will start collecting around this rod, which is also copper. It is attracted towards the opposite terminal, and the sulfate which is in this solution, it breaks up into sulfur dioxide gas. So what happens? The copper sulfate breaks up into two, which starts collecting around this rod. So after some time, we will see that the solution which was blue in color changes into dirty green, and this copper rod which is here, it will develop a layer outside it. It develops a layer outside, and after some time you will see that this may become slightly thicker. It will get a covering outside it. So this is electroplating, which is due to collection of copper outside it. And so what is happening actually? The copper sulfate has broken into copper. So actually this copper sulfate which is in the liquid form has lost copper. So if there is loss of copper, then what will happen to the solution? The change in color takes place, and therefore after some time, when the current is passing, some of the copper from the copper plate starts dissolving, and this copper which is connected to the positive terminal dissolves in this solution, and it maintains balance of this, but the color change takes place. You will study this detail in higher classes, but for the time being the electrochemical process has been I have explained. So after some time we see that the copper which was in this electrode collects around this electrode, and it forms a layer outside it, and this is called electroplating. The process by which, so I hope you have understood how the electroplating takes place. So this happens till the current passes. When you remove the current, within 10 to 15 minutes, all the copper sulfate breaks up into copper, and copper collects around this. Sulfate which is left in the solution is left as sulfate or sulfur dioxide gas is liberated, Otherwise, some of the copper from this rod dissolves and it again combines, but there is a chemical change. So this is electroplating, which is seen as electroplated metals. So you have seen that the metal rods and the objects are, they look like steel. So they are coated in this manner. So the process of depositing a layer of a desired metal on another metal by the means of electricity is called electroplating. So you can underline this. Electroplating is the process of depositing a layer of any metal on another metal by means of electricity. It is called electroplating. Electroplating is one of the most common application of chemical effect of current. If you see, this electroplating is explained in this activity, and in this activity process I have explained. Now, how is electroplating? Is it only used in copper? No, it is used in other metals also. Like if you want to coat, you must have heard and seen gold ornaments. They look like gold, but actually they are not gold. So how are they made to look like gold? So same thing. If you want to coat, like this is copper, cheap metal, you want to make it look like gold. So what you will do, you will put a rod of gold here and you will put a solution gold sulfate, arum sulfate, AuSO4. Again, this you will study later on in higher classes. When you pass electric current, the gold, a thin layer of gold will cover around this, and this will look like electroplated gold, which is also the artificial ornament. You must have heard artificial ornaments. You must have seen watches which you use, they look like gold, but they are not gold. So they are coated with gold or another metal in this way. So this is electroplating. Electroplating is very useful process. It is widely used in industry uh, and industry where coating of metal objects is done with a thin layer of another metal. So you coat it with a metal of another metal. The layer of metal deposited has a desired property. Now, why is this done? Why do you think we make a silver object look like gold? Because you want to make silver object look like gold and to make it look superior. So this is one of the reasons why electroplating is useful. So it is also done, a layer of metal is deposited has some desired property. For example, chromium plating is done on objects like car parts and bath taps or kitchen gas burners, bicycle handles, and the scale which I have shown you, that also contains, so the scale which is there, it is also coated with a layer of chromium. So this is actually an iron and it is coated with chromium. Now chromium makes it look like steel and it has a shiny appearance. And why it is done? Because if I use the scale in iron form, then iron will rust. So therefore chromium is coated over this. And if you have seen the experiment, just the explanation which I gave, you will understand that it is again done with the help of electric current by passing electric current in a liquid. So where will you put iron object and where will you put chromium? You can type below this video to understand, to explain that yes, you have understood. Where will you put chromium and where will you put iron, because you want to coat iron with chromium. It resists scratches and it is expensive, so you want to make iron look like chromium, and therefore chromium is electroplated in this way. The object is made from a cheaper metal and it is coated with chromium, over it is deposited. So this makes iron look like chromium or look like steel. The jewelry makers also do this. The jewelry makers do, they coat silver and gold on less expensive metal. You want to make a cheap metal look like gold, so you coat it with gold. These ornaments look like silver or gold but are much expensive. They are not very expensive, but when you coat it with iron, with gold, then they look like gold. Where else it is used? They are used in tin cans, and they are used in tin cans which are used for storing food. You store food, the juices and drinks are there in cans, so uh, they are coated with chromium. So this makes iron, because the container is made up of iron, and when you coat it with chromium, then the chromium makes the iron less reactive. You can put food inside and food will not react with iron. Chromium does not react with food, so it is electroplated. The tin, either chromium is used or tin is used. Tin is slightly less expensive than chromium, so tin is used. So you must have seen the juice cans and food cans, they are coated with tin. So this makes the food packed and it does not react with the item. Iron is used in bridges and automobiles to provide strength. However, iron tends to corrode. It rusts. To prevent rusting, iron objects are coated with tin or chromium. So this makes iron less reactive and it prevents rusting of iron. So therefore, this is how electroplating is useful. In the electroplating factories, how do you do electroplating in factories? In factory, you can't use one container and you can't put one. Therefore, the solution is a major concern. Now, this is explanation in factories where after that. So in factories, I'll tell you, in factories, they don't use a small container. They use huge containers where they put a large amount of solution and they keep on dipping the liquid and they put the solid inside and they coat. Like if you want to make 100 tires of this bicycle bike, make look like, so you will have big container, dip and make 50 or 100 of bikes tires look like steel. After it is done, what is done with the liquid? So that is explained here. The electroplating factories, the liquid which is used is a major concern. After you have done electroplating, what will you do with it? It will become a waste. So this is then disposed of and it causes pollution in water. So this is the thing which is explained in the end. So hope you have understood how is electroplating done and what is the process. So you can check the video and revise, and if you have any doubt, comment below this video and subscribe this channel exclusive for maths and science. Join for the next class. See you. Goodbye.